Drinking with Authors may contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, I'm Nick Savage. I want to welcome you to another episode of Drinking with Authors. Actually, not drinking today, just talking like I'm drunk. Tonight, I do have R. Haven, award-winning author and author of the book, The Other Face of Sympathy. Holding it right up there for you so I don't accidentally mispronounce sympathy, because I have Megadeth songs running through my head as we speak. If you know, you know. Tonight, I am drinking Diet Cola, Sam's Club. What are you drinking tonight?
I've got some jasmine tea.
Jasmine tea is wonderful. And for people who aren't avid tea drinkers, is that a black tea, green tea, oolong?
This one's actually unusual in that it is a black tea. Usually jasmine is not black, but no, this one I got at from a local vendor.
A local vendor?
It's very good. Yeah.
Does that vendor, you're going to have to give us the website of that vendor, because I actually was at a show, I do conventions as well, and bought I'm not a big fan of English breakfast tea, but I love Irish breakfast. And he had Scottish breakfast, so I was like, well, let me try that, and that was even better. Good black tea is something to behold. So thank you for sharing that.
True. Yeah.
So The Other Face of Sympathy. Tell me about it. Give me the tea, so to speak.
Yeah. So it begins with a 30-something transgender man who has been homeless for a good chunk of his life. And his grandmother passes away from taking her own life. So he gets everything. He moves into her old apartment, and from there finds diaries that were written by people who become monsters. So it becomes a hunt on both ends. He's hunting for the diary to find out what's hunting him. And if he can find the backstory, essentially, of the monster that is trying to kill him, maybe he can find a weakness and save his own life.
When you say monsters, are you talking metaphorical, or are you talking literal, like beasts with fangs and stuff?
Oh yeah, their trauma turns them into literal monsters. Some of them you would be familiar with, others you would not, because I made them up. But yeah, no, there are a whole host of monsters, some from different cultures. I did a lot of research into like cool myths from, I think there's one from India, one from Japan. And he ends up finding all these diaries at a sort of not of this world book exchange. It's not a bookshop. It's a book exchange, because she doesn't take money for them. She just she'll take a book and you take a book. But yeah, that the proprietress is named Conscience, and it turns out that maybe she's not human either.
Oh, very nice. So when you borrow these monsters from other cultures, or even, you're Canadian, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I know Bigfoot is like northern US. I'm not sure if that ventures into Canada, so I don't know what local, lives up there. But when you're local cryptids or other monsters from other cultures, can you tell us a way, without spoilers, in which you might make them your own to fit the story narrative, or would that be spoilers?
No, it wouldn't be spoilers. There's actually I have what I think is a good example of that, in that there are vampires in this book, but not the way you would think of them normally. This vampire came from sometime in the past with his lover. They were ostracized for being gay, and one of them was lynched and thrown into a bog. From there, the leeches kind of wormed their way into his body and are piloting him around as this leech vampire. So they borrow their feeding techniques from leeches rather than like the traditional like Interview with a Vampire style Anne Rice thing, or
Yes, that is really, really fun. And is this going to be a standalone, or are you going to make a series out of this?
as it stands right now, it's a standalone. But I do want to play around in this universe a bit more if I'm given the opportunity, because I really connect with the idea that trauma and like terrible things have the potential to turn us into the people we are, or the monsters we could become. Um, so I very much wrote it from a place of like, these people are cornered and society has turned them into villains whether they want to be or not. So what if they went all in and changed?
This does not sound like a young adult's novel. I'm assuming this is geared towards, okay. I know it's darker, but dark can be
Yeah.
considered season 1 of Buffy, you know what I'm saying, for the people
Yeah.
who are more, pop culturally attuned. Whereas season 6 and 7 are very far removed from what season 1 was. So I never disclude dark as not being YA, but this definitely does not sound like it's young adult at all.
No, it was funny when I first met because I have a young daughter, and I first met her, like, I think it was kindergarten teacher, at just like, the parent and teacher getting to know each other. And she goes, "So what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I write books." And she goes, "Oh, children's books?" And I reflexively went, no child should ever read what I write.
I definitely understand that. When I first started doing book signings after I got picked up by a publisher, I was very much like, out of concern for the reader, going, like asking ages, like, how old are you? Because they're picking up like a series that definitely has some explicit, stuff in it, whether, it's gore or sex. And in this case, I'm talking about the sex books. And I'd be like, no, I'm sorry. And I'd get in trouble for that, where they'd be like, he was kind of creepy. And I'm like, I just didn't want like a 13-year-old reading about, what's going on behind closed doors with 2 consenting adults. It's, like, and my publisher was like, just say it has mature content and let them decide. And ever since then, I've been like, all right, mature content,
Yep.
I'll let you decide. Because if I slip back into that, how old are you, because I don't want you, it comes across wrong, even though I'm just trying to look out for them. So I'm just like, mature content, that's it, you decide. And if they're like, mature, how mature, I show them and they're like, never mind, or yes, this is up my alley. And I'm not saying that's what you need to do. I'm just, if it comes to a spot where someone's like, it's got mature content and it might be, mature for your age, but it looks like you're going to read us a little something. Give us something.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I do have, in the very beginning, I have a content warning page.
And it tells
just
you
to be sure.
Yeah.
To be sure, because I'm a big fan of people not upsetting themselves going in blind to content. So that way it's there if they want it. If they're like, oh, this might be spoilers for me, you can just skip the content warning part, dive right in. But that way I feel like a reader is informed.
So question for you then, since you brought up the content warning and not wanting to upset readers. I'm trying to think how to phrase this without sounding like I'm either putting down readers or because I don't mean to. I never mean to phrase anything in a way that comes across wrong. But sometimes when I'm trying to think and don't have time, like say when we're recording a show, I go to say something like, oh, that'll sound wrong. So I'm going to ask it simply, why put them there? Outside of not wanting to, and I'm not meaning this in a bad way, like, why are you doing that? Why do you not trust your readers to be able to handle situations that may be life can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So and I am not.
No, it's a tricky line to walk, right? And I am of the opinion that if somebody wants to make a choice to like dive into something that's going to be uncomfortable, I want them to do that. Especially, I'm currently a social work student, and as you can imagine, we're sitting through classes that are designed to make us uncomfortable.
Yes.
And they want you to sit with it. They want you to learn from it. And I want people to be able to do that, but I also don't want to blindside someone. Because I mean, like, I have triggers of my own. I don't like watching, for example, like shows where a SWAT raid occurs.
Like
So
an actual like SWAT, like people enter the home, like cops enter the home, like SWAT. Okay, no.
Yes. Yeah. I that triggers me. So I like to know in advance, like, hey, I want to sit with the discomfort and I want to learn from it, but I also don't want to be so distracted by the discomfort that I'm not thinking anymore. I want to be able to critically engage with the content. And if your body's having that flight or fight response or fawn response, you're not going to think about it because you're busy actively trying to protect yourself. So I think content warnings are maybe not always necessary, but they're a good tool for people to be able to use.
That is actually probably one of the best reasonings I've heard for content warnings, because everybody's life has had things that happen, things that trigger them, things that push buttons, you know what I'm saying? Because depending on the generation you grew up with, it was either pushing buttons or triggers. Same concept, you know what I'm saying? But pushing buttons may have been a little less graphic than, trigger warnings, whereas triggers, you think one thing, pushing buttons, you think of brothers annoying sisters. But a lot of, like me, I'm like, screw trigger warnings. If they can't handle sex or they can't handle the violence in my other series, then, whatever. But to the way you said it, put it there so they know it's there. So when they get there, they can engage with it instead of being in that preservation kind of response, is probably one of the best stated reasons I've heard for wanting to put those content warnings, trigger warnings on books. And it's brilliant. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that a lot. So,
thank you for considering my words, right?
No, it's just one of those things where because people always want to debate or talk about why they're right and why they're never wrong and this and that, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes specifically to this, it's either I do it because people need to know, or I don't do it because fuck them. And I'm like, well, I might be on that one side. I'm on that one side only because I couldn't think of another reason why we should, not because I'm an asshole. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If you act like an asshole, you're an asshole. But I'm just like, but it's one of those things where when having a debate of any sort or a discussion, finding a way to move the conversation forward is the way to present any discussion, to be able to get it to move forward, and to say it's there as a tool so they can sit with it and be in that discomfort, as you said, so then they could learn something about themselves, whether it be why are they uncomfortable with it, from what happened in real life that they're uncomfortable with it, or what are they afraid of, XYZ, whatever, and learn to deal with it so they're either less uncomfortable with it or so they know how to deal with it in the future if it happens. You know what I'm saying? Is all a very good reason. And that moves the conversation forward to a spot where they're not just stuck, one side versus the other, and not even necessarily find the happy medium, but to be able to move it to a point where they're not stuck on where they were. You know what I'm saying? So I thank you for that. Getting off topic, my coordinator producer has you guys fill out some stuff, and I got to learn about, I can bring it up, the tongue thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's my weirdest fun fact.
What is a second tongue, and why did you need it removed?
So when I was about 12, I go up to my mom and I very innocently went like, "Hey mom, when is my second tongue going to stop growing?" And she went, "I'm sorry, what the fuck?" She did not say what the fuck, but her expression sure as hell did. And I lift up my tongue, and sure enough, there is a protrusion that looks like a second tongue underneath my tongue. So she actually worked for like an ENT surgeon. So she goes to her boss and goes, "What the hell is happening to my child? Is he just like the least impressive X-Man, or is this is it functional? What is it?" So what it turned out to be was like a blocked salivary duct had like formed under my tongue and was growing there, and I couldn't like move it around or anything. It was essentially just like vestigial second tongue. But either way, it was we wanted it removed. Or my mom did. In hindsight, I think I could have been like really great on like some kind of circus, but yeah, no. So she's like sitting in the operating room, surrounded by all these parents, and they're going like, "Oh yeah, no, my kid's going through like this really intense surgery for this like life-threatening condition," and she's just sitting there with her head in her hands, going, "My kid's got a fucking second tongue. That's all this is. That is the big emergency." And I mean, she's also getting all these pitying looks from these other parents as like the surgeon comes out and wants to talk to her directly because he's her boss.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going like, "Oh, you're so brave," and she's just like, "I'm so embarrassed."
And it was because of a blocked salivary gland, which is why it kept growing and growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
you would have had to have gotten that taken care of at one point or another. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was certainly an interesting time trying to explain that to people.
Oh,
And
no,
yeah, in any two truths and a lie game, that's my go-to.
That's your go-to is the second tongue. I like it. Yeah.
Yep.
It's interesting. It's a nice poetic way to describe what you had. And as I mentioned to you before we started, I wanted to know about it because I have an extra rib, and I didn't know about that till I was in my 40s, and I had an X-ray done or an MRI or something. No, X-ray done, and my doctor looked at it. He's like, he mentioned something about it, and I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, how has no one ever told you? And it's one of the floating ribs. I don't even know what side it is, but the floating ribs, it's split at the base where it connects to the spine, and so instead of being like one off, it just split, and so I have this extra rib just like down there. Doesn't cause issues, doesn't impede movement, or it's not going to poke into a lung or anything like that. So he's like, it's just there. You have an extra rib. So I'm just like, cool.
Yeah.
Extra armor, I guess. Not really sure. Yeah. But the bodies
Professor
are
X
very.
will be coming by any time now and recruiting us.
Yeah. I always figured I had something cool. Like I always wanted to be like Wolverine and have like an adamantium skeleton. And my body was like, best I can do is an extra rib. So, it's okay.
You compromise.
Yeah. It's like weather in Florida right now. It's I don't know what weather is like up by you, but weather in Florida is either really hot or really cold. There's like no average. It's one or the other. Yeah. And so
we had a couple of days of like really warm spring weather, and then 2 days ago we had a little snowstorm. So you never know in Canada.
We haven't had. I've only been down here 10 years. I'm originally from Chicago, and we've never had snow in this part of Florida, at least not in the time I've been down here, and as far as I know, not in my lifetime. But we had a frost and like a deep freeze where people's pipes burst. We had to because our pipes aren't very deep enough down here to not worry about that stuff. So we're dripping water and all that stuff. And after the frost, I'm driving down, and because we don't get frost, there's fountains in the public area, frozen, just icicles hanging down. And a lot of people were weirded out by it. I'm like, it just made me feel like I was back home. Like I truly miss like Chicago. And I have friends who moved up to Canada. I know nothing about geography. So you could tell me where you're at, and I'd be like, yeah, they moved like a mile away. And you're like, that's halfway across the country. Like, I know nothing about geography. But they moved up there from Florida, and they love it. And I just am like, Canada sounds like such a fun place to live, and such a nice place, if not expensive as all hell, because I looked at the real estate up there.
Oh yeah, no, I live in like the biggest city in Ontario, right? I live in Toronto. If I want to buy a house at any point in the future, for one thing, that's just you laugh yourself like out the door, because like it's just not gonna happen. But yeah, like houses in my neighborhood are going for millions of dollars, and I'm just lucky enough to rent.
We were able to buy our house before the real estate boom a few years back, when everything started rising in prices.
Yeah.
So we got our house. Now the other houses in my subdivision, don't ever buy an HOA. The other houses in my subdivision, when they were normally priced, because we bought a little higher because just normal real estate, increase in prices, were about 50 to 100,000 less than we paid. Our house, from what we paid to what it's worth now, it's worth over twice that. And I'm like, I love our house, and I'm not saying our house isn't worth that much money. No house in my subdivision is worth the amount of money people are paying for it now. And the only reason it's worth that much is because of artificial inflation, and that's anywhere, not just US.
Yes.
But this artificial inflation, and I know governments are finally starting to try and do something about it, but it's almost too little too late. And
yeah,
it's like
yes, they're going about addressing these problems, I think, in completely the opposite way, where they're like, oh, we'll build more houses, we'll build this condo, and that will solve it. And I'm like, who can afford the condo? Like,
do you guys have the corporations up there buying up all the new housing?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got all these empty houses already sitting around collecting dust, but you've made them so inaccessible that the problem's not going to be addressed. You have to luck into something.
Yes.
And I mean, I did, so hooray. But also, like, that doesn't change the fact that, like, I go walking around downtown and I see like the ratio of people who are unhoused to those who are. It's just crazy. It's not sustainable. And then you have the governments complaining like, oh, well, we need more people to take on more jobs, but you won't hire the people who are there and ready and willing to work, because they don't have the home to shower and make themselves presentable. And
let's not forget, though, that the corporations don't want to pay anyone what they're worth, because they have to think about their shareholders and their bottom line. And then they sit there and they wonder why their business is failing. And it's rampant in the restaurant industry, at least in the United States, and I'm sure everywhere else. My travels outside the US have been very limited to like business trips or like small vacations. I've never extendedly stayed anywhere. So but I know at least within the US, these restaurants get new CEOs to try and, pick up a floundering restaurant. And the first thing they do, instead of worrying about the fact that their food sucks or is the same crappy frozen, reheated or deep fried stuff as every other restaurant, they go, oh, let's cut the serving staff. So now they have shitty food and shitty service instead of actually addressing the problem at hand. And that kind of mentality has boiled over into the corporate office kind of mentality. And people aren't being paid. So what are they doing? Let's use AI, which is causing issues in an entirely separate way, outside of the fact that it's taking away jobs. it's not giving accurate information. So
Yep.
misery loves company in the sense
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's nice to know that Canada's as messed up as the United States. I'd like to see them do something about that, as I'm sure you would, especially
Oh,
because
yeah.
of the homeless problem, because it's getting bigger everywhere. And
Yeah.
it's
I
nice
feel
to
I feel especially strongly for like queer LGBTQ youth on the streets, because like they are, like, if you look at the ratios of who is more likely to become homeless at any point, well, first it's Indigenous people, always, at least in Canada, always, and then second it's any member of a queer group, like any marginalized identity there, they are more likely to end up on the street. And I'm like, this
can
feels
you
like such an obvious like correlation.
I understand it, and I actually know some of the statistics behind it, but for those who don't, can you expand on that a little bit? Why are they
Sure.
more vulnerable than other people besides Indigenous? Because I know you're right. I know you're not just making
Yeah.
shit up, but can you on that for others?
Unfortunately, I don't have my bibliography with me, but I can back it up a bit here with we know that statistically speaking, um, if anyone is going to be kicked out of their home, it is a queer teenager. Um, Unfortunately, no, like we've made huge strides, and I will not disregard that when it comes to learning acceptance. But that doesn't change the fact that, like, when it comes to familial supports, queer individuals have far fewer. Um, we are also more likely to not be able to hold down employment because there are a whole ton of discrimination laws, but there are also a lot of loopholes.
Yeah.
Where, like, oh, I happen to mention my partner who is the same gender as me, and then a week later I'm not getting shifts anymore, and that's confusing.
Yeah.
It there's such a strong correlation, and it's one of the fantastic things about the queer community is how quickly we connect with each other. Like, one of the things I never understand in media is like the one token gay friend. And I'm like, I have one token hetero friend. I don't know anyone who's not queer, because we find each other.
Yes.
Um, but typically speaking, because the resources are still limited for that other queer person, our community is very, very poor. So we're offering supports we don't have. Um, and that's really unfortunate, and it is one of the ways that people end up on the streets, or if they're lucky, they're couch surfing. But yeah, it's an insanely high number, and especially among youths.
I also
And
know that among queer youth, their suicide rates are higher than any other subsector, whatever the proper term is, because I just
yeah,
know facts and then forget the details of like the wording. But I know
yeah,
that suicide rate is higher. Um,
oh
and
yeah,
you're right, they are going to be kicked out of their homes because as much as the world has made leaps and bounds in acceptance, it still is not where it needs to be because people latch on to things that give them a reason to hate or to not accept, and that does not do society any good to sit there and to hold on to, let me ruffle some feathers here, but to hold on to a religion that says you're different from me, so you're no good. It doesn't do society any good to hold on to something like that and to not give them, as they always like to say, the bootstraps to pull themselves up by because they're kicking them out of the house. If they don't have the bootstraps, they can't pull themselves up. So yeah, they end up, homeless, or they end up killing themselves and stuff like that. And it's a horrible, situation to be put into. So I thank you for having your words on there, because me as a straight white guy, who the hell am I to talk about, a queer experience like that? I can only talk about the human experience, and that doesn't always translate. You know what I'm saying? To
Oh yeah.
across the spectrum. So you need people with certain voices to speak on that behalf. So that's why I wanted you to expound it. I wasn't trying to
Oh no no no.
put you on the spot or anything like that. I'm like,
No,
so
I do
please
think
tell me. Yeah, no.
yes. No, I do think getting back to books and especially touching on what you were saying about AI, that's one of the reasons that human written or human made art is always going to be more important and have more weight than anything an AI can ever create, because we're the ones with stories to tell. And I think like we're not only the ones with stories to tell, we're the ones able to connect with stories in a way a machine is never going to be able to. It's just not possible. No matter how far we get with AI, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to be the same. And yeah, we need that human made art, and we need that human made art to make us feel things, especially discomfort.
Yes.
As we were, because that's how we learn, that's how we grow. And it's just so important to me to stress how much I hate AI as
Oh
well.
no, I'm there with you on that. I am staunchly against AI, especially when it comes to the generative, you know what I'm saying, like AI for
Yeah.
writing. For AI wasn't supposed to take away the jobs of the creative people. It was supposed to help supplement jobs in terms of like doctors helping diagnose something where they may have missed a symptoms. It wasn't supposed to be, oh, let's now watch AI created movies or have AI actors. It was supposed to make life more accessible, not make life less accessible. And
Exactly.
the more people focus on AI, the more they focus on the intelligent aspect of it, and not the fact that, much like the word show business, the word business is longer than the word show for a reason. Artificial intelligence, both words are about the same, but they focus on the intelligence, and that it's still fucking artificial. There's nothing human about it. There's nothing real about that intelligence. It is 100% artificial, no matter how much it's trained by human people. And the more advanced it gets, the more it starts spewing out the same stuff. And the biggest example I can give from my personal, and I'm sure you can, because every author gets these emails.
Oh, yeah. I already know the emails you're talking about.
Yeah, like the book club. I run a book club email, or I want to make you promo, like clips or whatever. And it's all the same stuff, a regurgitation of your blurb or a chapter of your book that's been fed into AI, and it comes back. And when they first started, I was like, ooh, this seems a little strange and a little too detailed for someone wanting, but let me see where they go with this. And I was like, oh, they're trying to sell you something and they use AI to try and hook you in, or, whatever the scam is, because it's all just a hook to try and take money from you. And the AI, as much as it's been going on for months or a year, however long these emails have been coming to you, they all sound exactly the same, because AI, even though it has 1 million different voices, it boils down the 1 million different voices to one. So it all sounds the same. And the AI videos are looking just as bad. It's like, I don't know how old you are, or if you were old enough to remember that time when the Scorpion King came out, and the movie, the Mummy, the Scorpion King.
Yeah.
And that was both the height of CG and the absolute bottom of CG, because the Scorpion King was worse graphics than most video games were at that time. And this was like a multi-$100 million budget movie with these graphics that like a junior high school kid, taking his first computer class could have done. But then at the same time, other movies were coming out, and I want to say Life of Pi was around that same time. Maybe I could be wrong, but they were absolutely top notch. Like, you would not know they were, like computer graphics. And that's kind of where AI is going, is that it's it's meeting in the middle, and it's just, you can tell it's fake, and it's not staunchly against AI for reasons like that. Because, oh my God, I'm with you on that. I'm sorry to babble on.
Oh, no. I'm 100% in agreement. I am drinking to that.
Salute. So I'm gonna call you out on something here in a fun way. You've been very pleasant. We've not met before this show. You know, my coordinating producer put out a thing, and we were like, hey, let's get you on here. You're very not irritable. So so explain the background of theirritablequeer.com.
So it came from me making a post on social media. I can't remember which platform now, where I just went on a little rant, and it was about like the way that queer youth are treated, especially like as like media treats us specifically, in that like we're always like, you can't tell a queer story without it being like the underdog or inspirational, quote unquote, in some way.
Okay.
There's got to be a inherent tragedy to being queer, and that's all you get. And I signed it off the irritable queer, and a friend of mine went, "That's your brand. That's it. You're not going to top that." And I went, "You're right. I'm going to make a website." So I did. And at first, when I was blogging, because I maintain it as like my professional author site, but I also have a blog portion. And I was just kind of ranting about anything that came into my head. But after a while, this was shortly after my daughter was born, I hit a really rough patch in my life. And I blogged about it, and I was open about it. But I realized afterwards, I don't want that to be all this is. I want to look for positives in my life, and I almost use the blog as like a reason to explore what's going on in my life and find something good in it. So that's been very positive, and I think it's been positive for my overall health. But as such, the URL is going to stick because I still love it. But I'm not quite as irritable as I used to be.
No, I think it should stick. And I think that there comes to a point where I think everybody in their life enters this phase where like it's hip to be, I don't want to say negative, but sassy or snarky, and sassy in a way that's not exactly fun sassy. You know what I'm saying? But like, like that snarky sassy, or that like quick to with a jab at someone. And I think that kind of jadedness only lasts so long before we're like, you know what? There's nothing wrong with being positive, and you could still be sassy and snarky and positive at the same time. We all have to come to learn to balance that. But I love that. I don't think you should change it. I was not indicating that you're not irritable. You need to no. That is wonderful, and it is very much like a brand like that. But you said that queers get it's a tragedy or it's an inspiration, and I was going through. I don't know if you're overly familiar with the Zack Snyder beats of a movie, his beat sheet and stuff like that, where you have the opening image, the inciting incident, blah blah blah, this and that.
Yeah.
And I think because so much of media, whether it's television, movies, or books, even though it's always had its queer base working within it, whether as writers or the behind the scenes or wherever, it was always dominated by the straight males, that it was to follow the Zack Snyder beat sheets because it was written by straight males, whether it was written originally by someone from the queer community, then taken over, you know what I'm saying, I'm going to produce it and here's my 10 cents in it. To them, it had to be inspirational, or it had to be the tragedy. And I think that now, even following the Zack Snyder beat sheet stuff, which I love, and nothing against the beat sheets, we're finally at a spot where the queer voice is big enough and strong enough to where they'd be like, look, guys, our life is not just a tragedy, or it's not just an inspirational. One of my favorite comedians has cerebral palsy, and she has this bit, and her name's Tina. I can't pronounce her last name because I can't remember, like Frimley or something like that. And she gets this up on stage, and she's like, everything I do is an inspiration. And she like messes with the microphone and puts it back in the stand. She's like, oh. And it's funny because she's making fun of herself for having that. But the queer community is finally at a spot where not everything has to be that, and they can have stories that are just normal, life stories.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? It was only on for one season, and COVID killed it. Have you ever seen a TV show, Uncoupled?
I heard of it, but I did not see it.
Neil Patrick Harris, who had said he'd never play a gay role, plays a gay role because he's gay and he wants to be known as the gay. Yeah. And it's by all means a queer show, but only because it has queer sex in it, and the lead, it's about a queer couple breaking up. But it's not about them being gay as so much as it's about them trying to survive a breakup. And it's absolutely one of the best seasons of television for I don't want to call it romance because it's not romantic, but about you know what I'm saying, relationships that I've seen. And it's absolutely wonderful and well worth seeing. But then COVID killed it and it got canceled. But if you've never seen Uncoupled, it's absolutely wonderful, and it moves beyond a queer story must be a tragedy to be queer or a inspiration, you know what I'm saying, and gets back into that.
No, that
that
sounds very worth watching.
You do bring up a good point with that, because I'd never really realized that, so I thank you for that. What else do you have on the horizon work wise? Because we mentioned the other face of sympathy, and I have to say it like that. I'm not mocking your book, otherwise I want to say symphony, or I can't even say the word I want to say now. Symphony. And I'm like, that is not the right word. Yeah, the other face of sympathy. So what else do you have on the horizons that you're working
on? So first off, I have a backlog of books. I am quote unquote lucky in that in that way, because I got an agent in 2024, 2025, one of the two.
Let's say 2024 and a half. That way it's like in between.
Exactly. And my agent, who is wonderful, her name is Caitlin Katsoupas. She's fantastic at Belcastro Agency. She has 3 of my books that are now going out to publishers and seeing if anyone bites. And in addition to that, I have like 3 other books that are waiting in the wings, which means I have a lot of time to explore what I want to do next. And right now I'm actually researching and working on how to write a tabletop role-playing game.
Nice.
Because I am a big nerd and I love my D&D. But I also had, I ran this as like this basic pitch for a game back in maybe like 2018 or something. And I ran this game, then it was just role play, no roles, no anything, no rules really, just to see what the story could be. And it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. I traumatized my friends thoroughly. That's the goal. And then I very recently went like, I miss this. What could I do to make it accessible to a wider audience? So I wrote down a whole bunch of notes, and then I went to one of my friends who is in my writing circle, went like, how do I write this? And they gave me a bunch of resources. So I don't think this is going to be something like upcoming soon, but it's something that I'm definitely excited to work on, and maybe one day there will be like a Kickstarter or something in my future.
nothing wrong with that. Kickstarters are great ways to do that. I have some friends who did some role-playing games like that, and they actually had some good success with it, and it veered off into other opportunities for them. So I definitely think that could be a good avenue for you. So tell us, if anyone who's watching this stumbles across it, whatever, is interested, outside of going to theirritablequeer.com, where else can we find your books, find you? Give us all of it.
So I am also on Instagram and Blue Sky as author.rhaven. And I have a Facebook page, but to be honest, I don't use it very much. I just usually drop my blog links there, and but you can again find me as author.rhaven. I am also findable, or rather my books are at like Barnes and Noble, Indigo if you're Canadian. We have them at like some indie bookstores like Little Ghost Books if you're Toronto based. And yeah, I intend on like trying some markets as well. There's a market I applied for called the Toronto Dark Arts Market. I believe that's in May, so we'll see if I get in. Fingers crossed. But yeah, if you happen to be located in Toronto, there are a lot more opportunities to find the book. But it is also available on ebook.
Can we
available
find you on Amazon?
Barnes and Noble and the general big ones.
Okay. So Barnes and Nobles, if not anywhere else, they can find you there, find you on your website as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. I want to thank you. For taking the time to come out and do this. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I know we kind of had a broad bunch of topics we were talking about, but you brought up some absolutely wonderful points, from everything as to the housing crisis, to why trigger warnings aren't necessarily just a cop out, and why they're actually productive to have there. So I thank you for all of that. And I will definitely be keeping an eye out for you, and best of luck with your agent and getting out there, and love the shout out to the local bookstores and to your agency as well. I'm sure that they appreciate that. And because I didn't say it in the beginning, I have to say that the Drinking with Authors podcast is sponsored by Four Horsemen Publications. They don't pay me to say that, but they asked that I be nice enough to say that, since they're the ones who put all this together and make it possible. So yeah, they are the ones who do that. But thank you for coming out, and everybody, thank you for watching. And until next time, remember, it costs nothing to be kind. See you then. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Drinking with Authors. Join us next time for another fun conversation with an author over drinks.